Reasons why babies are crying. Some of them are not what we thought, and how we can help them really to feel good. Ever seen a baby fall asleep while eating? This is what we are told, that the baby is crying because he has gas, that he is tired, and that it's the lack of confidence of the mom or lack of brain development. The real reasons why babies are crying. The language of the baby at first is only in crying. That's how he let us know when he needs something. So the first thing we should do is to check what he needs right now. Change his diaper. Maybe he's hungry or need a touch. Or something is uncomfortable, clothes or position. If he continued to cry after we changed his diaper, clothes or position, and checked if he is hungry or tired, you saw his signs that he is tired and you put him to sleep in another room without stimulations or other people, and he continued to cry. He's hysterical and he moves his legs or arms. And when you give him a bottle or breastfeeding him, and you see that he pushes himself from your breast or bottle and doesn't want to eat or continue to cry, then this is the sign that the baby needs to cry. That is when you can know for sure that your child is now crying to get out bad memories in order to let go of tensions and bad feelings from the past. As the baby is growing, he learns to speak his needs by signs in our language instead of crying. But it is very important to remember, crying is the most influential method of our body or soul to release or heal from trauma and negative emotions. Crying is the most powerful way to clean us until death. What do you prefer? I wasn't like that with the hair, but I had sleepless nights with my first son, and because of that I'm making this video with presentation that you can read every time you want to repeat this information, because this is new to you and also to me when I discovered it. And I discovered it because I saw my child crying so much before he fell asleep and then wake up every 2 hours in night and continue to cry, and we didn't understand and we tried to relax him and nothing helped. Sometimes it did, but he cried hysterically. So I searched for the real reasons why babies are crying, and I found it. And with my first child, I had no support to let him cry, and because of that, he wasn't really healthy and needed me a lot. And I will explain to you later what it makes the child to do. But with my second child, my baby girl, I let her cry ever since I got back from the hospital when she needed to cry. And then I slept all night because she slept all night and didn't wake up. She slept like an adult. And that's because she cried at the day. So what do you prefer? Think about it and you will know that this is preferably that you will let your baby cry at the day instead at night, that you won't have sleepless nights, but all night you will sleep with your baby like a baby. 5 reasons of the unexplained crying of the babies. Prenatal pain and the trauma of the birth, requirements that haven't been fulfilled, too much information, frustration from helplessness and body pain. Birth trauma, events that happened while at birth and after are hurting the baby psychologically and emotionally. fear, frustration, confusion, and sadness that someone is taking the baby from his mom after birth, all of that are legitimate emotions that he needs to get out. Also, he can have trauma from the stress hormones that his mom felt while pregnant. If the birth was very traumatic, the baby could cry for months about it. The baby could unload his bad experiences or feelings by crying, shuddering, fury, by moving his hands and legs, and yawning. Past needs that were not supplied. Babies are crying not only when they need something immediately, but also if their needs in the past were not answered, or something is reminding them a need that was not responded right. The only way that they heal themselves is by remembering the pain and then to cry about it. I will give you an example, not from my children, but from the book that I am giving you the information about a child, a very small baby that he didn't get enough touch from his parents because maybe he was in an incubator or the parents couldn't touch him. Then maybe after half a year, uh, someone started to touch him, maybe his parent, and then he started to cry. If the parent doesn't know this information, he will think that the baby doesn't want someone to touch him, but it's not true. He's crying because someone's touching him, and it reminds him that someone didn't touch him before. So he's cleaning himself from the bad experience by crying, and then later he will feel very good and will love the touching. Load of information. Every day, the baby is exposed to new experiences. When the baby doesn't understand or know the new feeling, he has too much information to unload. Information that he can't attribute to other information and make the connection. Sometimes he can be frustrated before he doesn't understand because he doesn't understand what is happening. Expose your young baby to new places gradually. Frustration from their lack of ability to understand or incapacity. The ambition to be independent is natural to all of us, but before we learn a new skill, we need first the ability to require it. When there is a discrepancy between the desired state to the reality that the baby can't do what he wants, this is a source of a lot of frustration. Think about us, we are also feeling that almost every day that we want things to happen and it doesn't happen, and we have a lot of frustration as well. Body pain makes babies cry, but also the yawning is the way of our body to release pain and bodily tension. There are a lot of sources of pain and bodily discomfort, cold or heat, rashes, uncomfortable clothes. The baby could crush himself in walls and furniture and the floor. Cuts, scratches, and bites. They are also getting hurt when people are yelling or laughing at them. Parents who give also physical punishments because they got punishments when they were children add another source of the pain that the baby would have to let go by crying it out. The first thing that you should do is to remove the source of the pain and then hold him and let the baby continue with his crying so he could clean himself from the bad experience. After you checked all the baby's needs and he continued to cry, don't distract him and try to calm him. Only hold him and let him cry. We did this. We gave him music, put him in this, I don't know how to say it in English, and I gave him to eat to my first son. I thought he's hungry, and also this. the pacifier that I don't know why people invented it. Maybe because they thought that the baby needs something to suck, but this is not something that he needs to shut his emotions. If he needs to suck something, he would find it himself. All of these things and a lot of other methods are used by parents to relax the baby, to stop the crying, because you don't know why he's crying. So you try this and you try that and you try this and you don't understand why he continue. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And because sometimes it works, maybe because he's used to it and he's using this method to stop the crying himself, or because he's really hungry or really need to sleep. So how the crying of the baby sounds when he needs to cry? I listen to my children and other children when I used to work in a kindergarten, and this is the crying. He's saying ah or na. So after you checked all of his needs and he continued to cry and he's saying these words, then you could know that now it's the time for him to let out bad emotions. Now, this is very important that you will understand what will happen to your child if you continue with this method to stop his crying. I know this is very hard to hear your child cry because you think he is suffering, but it's not true. He's suffering because he has some bad emotions in himself and he needs to get it out. If he will not get it out, he will suffer later, and this is the suffering. So, a ways to calm the crying by incorrect interpretation. Like I said, if you think that your baby need a movement, then you take him to a walk or you walk him, then the baby will have possible blocking patterns. He will maybe have self-nudging or a need to hold him most of the time. He will not be able to be separated from you and maybe will get to slam his head. I used to hold my child every time he cried, and that was a blocking pattern that I gave it to him without knowing that I'm stopping him from crying. And I thought I'm a good mom. Wow, he stopped crying because of me, because I gave him a hug. But it wasn't from my thinking that I'm now letting him cry. I just thought that he needs a hug. But he stopped to cry every time. And then later, he wanted me every time to hold him. And he didn't want me to go anywhere. He just needed me all the time. If you think that your baby is hungry and you give him food instead of crying, and you feed the baby with your milk or bottle food, then he could have addiction to eat from his mom or bottle. He could have addiction to sugar or food. And if he is breastfed, he can't be separated from his mom. If you think that your baby needs to suck and you put to his mouth a pacifier or a bottle or a breast, then he would have an addiction to pacifier. He would ask for it every time he needs to cry. So look at your baby. If you have a baby right now that is addicted to something that's stopping him from crying, look at him when he is crying and he's searching for something and asking for something. Don't give it to him and just hold him lovingly and tell him that you accept his emotions and you let him cry. And now you are giving him the permission to cry because you see that he needs it. If you think that he needs a physical touch and you hold the baby or hug him, but without letting him to cry like I did, then he will want the parent to hold him a lot. He will not be able to be separated from the parents. If you think that your baby is tired and you put him in bed alone, then he would have an addiction to his bed, that he would need to sleep a lot, and he would be connected to his bed or an object in it, a blanket or a doll. He would get to suck his finger, maybe too much masturbation or self-bouncing, and the baby doesn't want later physical proximity. And also, lastly, if you think that your child is bored and you distract him when he is crying by toys or photos or talking or songs, etc., then the baby would want you to entertain him all the time and he won't be able to detach from you. So listen to your baby and let him cry. You don't want him to get to these addictions and problems in the future, I believe. It is hard to hear the baby crying, I know that, because it feels or sounds like he is suffering, and that's why you try to relax him. And you think that he definitely needs something, so you try this and that, like I said, but the truth is, the crying is not the pain, but it is the process of our body or soul to heal itself from pain and being released from it forever. Until 1 year old, the baby could cry 3 times a day, every time between 20 minutes to 1 hour, even more. So be patient. If you are alone and you have another child like I have, then it's a little difficult. I held my young baby when she cried, and sometimes my other child needed to cry, and I held both of them just like that because he was also very young and wanted me to hold him. But you know now that this is the right thing to do, so we'll do it lovingly. And he needs to be held by someone who loves him and have patience to his crying and listen to him. When the baby can walk, then he starts to cry on the floor or bed or next to his parent. If he doesn't want you to touch him, then let him cry where he wants, and when eventually he will come to you to get a hug and cuddle at the end of the crying. Signs that the baby needs to cry from 1 year old to etc. The baby or child can start crying for no reason, so check if he needs something. If the baby continues to cry after you checked his needs, then it is a sign that he now unloads bad emotions and crying is what he needs. Second, if the baby asks for something and he is hysterical and he is not pleased when you give it to him, then it is also a sign that he needs to cry. If he asks for something that he knows that he will not get, then he makes excuse to cry, so just say no, you can't give him what he wants, and he will cry everything out. If the infant starts to bite or hit someone, then you need to hold his hands and say to him that you get his own emotions, and he would start to cry. Instead of letting out his emotions on others, he will let out from his body. So after the infant cries, he becomes a relaxed and a nice child like he is. This is a picture of a desk that parents are changing diaper to their baby. This is an example of what will happen if you won't let your baby cry. Every time the human cries, he cleans himself. If the baby or infant falls, let him cry and say to him that you see what happened and how he feels. If the child will not cry out immediately, the trauma will stay and he could be afraid later from heights. Also, the baby or human only can learn from the situation that happened to him if he feels and processes the emotion. So, it is also makes the children very smart. Ever heard yourself say those sentences? Shh! Stop crying. You are not a baby. Don't cry like a baby. Nothing happened. You are okay. Want a candy or water? All of them and more are blocking the other's emotions. So pay attention, please, to your words, because you can lift the other only when you accept him and his emotions. And if the child or other person will not get out his bad emotions by crying or talking, he could get sick physically or violent or hurt himself in other ways or addictions to stop feeling the bad feelings because he is used to suppress the pain. The blocking patterns as expressed in adults. When parents gave their baby a pacifier, then he could get to take cigarettes when he's older, and booze if he got drink from his mom, and food, sugar, like I said, and coffee and all that. Most of these things are also from the media, and because of other people are doing that and they're telling you that this is cool or sexy or yummy or all of that, but this is not the real thing that will help you. You know that, and it's only blocking your emotions. Entertainment. If you will entertain your baby as a child when he is crying, he could get to go to shopping or entertain himself every time he needs to let out his emotions and he doesn't want to feel the bad emotion. Then he would go to a movie or see a commercial and all that in television just not to feel. And also yourself, maybe you are also like that, and check yourself what you are doing when you feel bad. Causing physical pain instead of feeling the inside pain. Some people are putting their hands like that and pushing their hair to feel the pain, but it's not letting out the pain. You understand what I'm saying? And also tattoo, it's it's also good that people think that this is good and beauty, but also it's pain that people are doing to let out pain. My brother, he had a friend that killed himself, and he saw that. And when he was in the funeral, after that he made a tattoo because he was so sorry. And almost all of the people that are doing that are not happy. And also I didn't put photos of that. Some people are doing too much masturbation and maybe even biting their nails instead of putting their pacifier in their mouth. They are putting hands in another way. The final solution. unfortunately, some people are going to take drugs to feel high, to feel good, but it's really the opposite, and it kills themselves at the end. Detained, mental pain. Some people are getting out on others. Sorry. If you see a child doing that, like I said, biting or hitting another child, then just go to him and push him from the other child and just hug him and tell him that you accept his feelings but you don't accept the hitting, and that he can cry out what he has in his body. And almost all of the men, unfortunately, are violent. Girls are less because in our culture, I don't know why, the parents and the teachers, they are all saying to the boys that you don't need to cry, that you are a man, that you need to be strong. And then he doesn't cry, and then he lets out on his woman or on another friend. So let your boy cry out also his pain. We are all humans, we are all have emotions. Don't let them let it out on others. You can unload the stack, bad emotions from the past. This is a way for you to let it out for you as an adult. Think about a close friend or sibling or spouse that loves you and can listen to you and not judge. Tell him that you need help to get out from your bad emotions or traumas. And all you need is that he will listen without interrupting and hug or touch you. When you tell him what happened, when you leave the pain again in your mind and speak about it with someone who gives you attention and hold you, the emotions will start to get out from your body by shivering and crying spontaneously. And yawning will come out also if you have bodily pain, if you got hurt from others by abusement. And this method of letting out emotions is only for traumas. If you have something that you know about it, after you cried it out, you can look for the presents that you got from the bad experience or trauma. I wrote it here, my presents from my past. So you can write to yourself or think for yourself after you cried out what you got from the bad experiences. Humility and modesty, sensitivity to others, self-love, concern for others, appreciation to what you do have in your life. And it could have been worse. And it teaches you something good for the future. I will give you an example from my life. I used to hitchhike with people in their car that they gave me a ride to another place so I could go home. And when I got to a car with a man, usually the man touched me and started to talk with me, and I I I'm a very naive person. I believe in the good of people, and every time I was very surprised that he's doing that, that he's touching me. I'm religious. I didn't believe that they are doing that, and I was very offended. But every time I erased this experience and thought that it will not happen again, and then it happened again and again and again. And then one time I got the present that helped me to stop the experience of this um, bad experience from men that touched me and didn't respect me. And I was with a man in his car that took me to another place, and then he suddenly got into a forest. He turned to a forest, and I understood what he wants. And suddenly I understood also that he's not Jewish, he's Arab. So I was so afraid, and I started to cry out to God. And I told him that I don't want to be raped, I don't want to be killed, I want to live. Please help me, God, please help me. And suddenly this Arab uh, stopped the car in the middle of the forest, got out from the car, and started to vomit and told me that it doesn't feel good. And then he came back to the car and drove back and got me out in where I needed to go. And I had a miracle. I had a miracle that God saved me, because I didn't understand. He almost all the time sent me a man that touched me and didn't respect me and didn't understand that I don't suppose to ride with another man alone. It's not supposed to be like that. And only because of this experience I stopped it. So look for the presence in your life, what you got good from your experiences, and in every day look for the present of what is happening right now that is good for you. The answer that you will have, that I'm not writing to you what it is nonviolent communication. You have it online. You can search for it, how you can speak, how you can talk your needs. But once a person is not ashamed to express his feelings or desires or needs and speak what is in his heart, and also the other one will listen to, then he won't end up in situations of escape to addictions that keep him from feeling. Remember this phrase: he is not against me, but he is now in favor of himself. What do you feel about these behaviors? Disrespect someone else, saying criticism, getting angry on someone, hitting or hurting someone else, stealing, talking bad about someone else, cursing, etc., 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 etc. There are a lot of bad behaviors that people are doing, and we need to learn how to behave, but most of the time the bad is getting out from us when we feel bad. So don't put yourself down that you are bad. You are not bad. You are regretting those behaviors and all of that you did in the past. You are clean and good. And the bad behaviors, they came out because you needed to defend yourself. And I don't say that this is good, but you regret it. We all regret all of the bad things that we did. So it's not us really. Okay? I need you to know that the bad things that you did in the past are not you. And you can start over every day and every moment, and be new and be connected to yourself, the real you, that you are good. Recovery from all bad experiences. Humans were born with the ability to recover from experiences of loss and fear, confusion, and frustration, and every bad experience. The healing process is the release that occurs by crying, rage, and shaking, games, talking, and laughter. Children and all humans must be allowed to express their painful feelings to the fullest, and someone who can listen to them and hold if needed. They won't be able to flourish if we only get their positive feelings and ignore the expression of pain, of anger, of fear, of frustration, or discomfort. Or also, if we punish them for it, we must give them an environment that accepts the entire spectrum of emotions, no matter how strong they are. After they let out the bad emotions, they will come back to be cute and calm and happy kids as they are, or human beings as adults. They start over again like nothing happened because they got it out and learned from the experience. Bumerang Effect. You are a spirit in a vessel, a body. God wants you to be happy. Remember that. The treatment that you give to yourself is reflected by others. When you are loyal to your needs and emotions and say them without shame, then others will and could respect you as well. Fulfill yourself as well, but remember to see the others. At someone else's expense, don't fulfill yourself. Remember that you can control only yourself, not others, not what happens to you in the moment. Only your emotions you can control. Even every human has his free will and desires, the same as you. So respect others, and they will respect you as well. Also, thank God. Everything that happened to us humans and every piece in this world is from God, for the best. We don't know why, because we are in the middle of our movie. This is a saying of our Jewish rabbis. Who is rich? He who is satisfied with his lot. We have a choice to react to what happened to us or is happening to us, in a bad way or a good way. So what is your choice? The good thought will bring more good behaviors. So then your reality will change for the best.